Dave Ramsey's speech will change your financial future. The current American system gives the little man a better chance to succeed than any other system the world has ever known. Twice, I've been a millionaire. Because you got 2 shots, I had to do it twice because I'm such a moron. You really do have a chance to do it, but it all depends on me accepting responsibility, making choices, and realizing that you get what you sow. So, if you plant maize seed, don't be surprised if maize sprouts. Actually, there is just one definition that applies. There are definitions with predetermined goals. Politicians, for instance, frequently define a millionaire as someone who earns $1 million annually. That is not how it is defined. There is a well-known accounting and finance definition. It's a rather straightforward formula. If the sum of your assets less your liabilities exceeds $1 million, you are considered to be a millionaire. It is not a moral principle. It's not a matter of deciding if it is sufficient, insufficient, or excessive. None of those things apply to it. What you possess less what you owe is a mathematical calculation. That is what actually happens. There are currently 13 million millionaires living in America. Over 10,164 millionaires were polled as part of the largest study of millionaires ever conducted, which our research department finished a couple of years ago. We had in-depth conversations with each one of them to learn more about their background, demographics, and source of wealth. What other professions offer all those different things? What's fascinating is that 89% of the billionaires in North America today did not become millionaires by inheritance, as we have now scientifically demonstrated with the greatest survey of millionaires ever conducted. In actuality, 79% received essentially no inheritance. 5% of the population received a meager legacy from their grandmother of $5,000 or something comparable, not enough to make them millionaires. And 5% more people received substantial payments after becoming millionaires. His parents bequeathed him an additional $250,000 after they passed away, just like a buddy of mine who has a net worth of $1.2 million. His current weight of 1.45 means that the idea of middle class has entirely transformed. A brick home measuring 1,100 square feet with 1.2 automobiles in the driveway was considered median class in 1960. The average middle class home nowadays is a 2,800 square foot, 2-story home with 2.3 automobiles in the driveway. Therefore, middle class was determined by what would have been considered at least higher middle class in 1960 and possibly lower upper class. America now has the richest impoverished people in the entire globe as a result of raising all of our standards of living to extremely high levels. I'm hoping it gets under control for a number of reasons. I believe that the government's absurd policy of producing money like there's no tomorrow, distributing it literally, and paying people to not work in part accounts for the inflation. However, there is another peculiar factor that has contributed to this particular bit of inflation. I also missed it coming. In retrospect, however, I kind of feel like I should have anticipated it any time there is an earthquake at sea. Immediately afterward. If there is a major earthquake at sea, a tsunami will occur, causing a 10-story wave to hit the shore days, hours, or whenever after the earthquake. If the pandemic was caused by the earthquake, we completely shut down the economy, closing all factories, the supply chain, all production, and most consumption, but not all of it. Then, while paying them to not work, we sort of put them back to work. Therefore, we messed up the supply chain. We hampered the flow of products and services and the demand for them. And with this absurd Washington strategy of continuing to pay people not to work, we have disturbed the labor markets. As a result, practically every category has experienced extraordinary increases as a result of this perfect storm. Oil is the only category not affected by this. And again, this is due to absurd policies and pipeline cuts that result in a reduction in supplies. A supply-demand curve is what it is. A supply-demand curve from 7th grade describes how prices rise whenever there is a shortage. For example, when there is a scarcity of toilet paper, prices rise. When there is a shortage of petrol, prices rise. When there is a lack of labor, prices rise. My expectation is that 2 things will happen over the next 5 to 10 years to put an end to this one. First, that after the tsunami, the waves will have subsided, and second, that we will have made repairs and returned to a more normal capitalist society. And my aim is that we switch administrations and stop spending money recklessly, you understand. Therefore, we must eliminate the cause of their addiction. Government assistance is out of hand because we're supporting people who don't need it, which means we're paying people to not work when they're physically capable of doing so, and there's plenty of job available right now. There are now severe labor shortages in a number of industries. Right now, try managing a restaurant. Oh my God, it's terrible. Try finding a hotel room with beds that are absurdly firm. Therefore, those in the lower socioeconomic rungs of society were the first to suffer from the pandemic quarantine and industry shutdowns. They are the ones who have not returned. And they are the ones preventing the economy from picking up speed. And these lengthy, out-of-control government programs are the root of the entire problem. And teaching someone to stop working is not being helpful, or even trying to be helpful, to that person 10 years from now. Anytime you become financially desperate, you immediately become foolish. I completed it. And you know, it's simply not a sensible move to turn to some sort of desperate move to get rich quick and some unproven method if you start to feel desperate and you're freaking out over the increase in inflation, or you're freaking out over all these disturbances in the economy. I can now tell you what I'm doing directly. I personally continue to invest in mutual funds with a lengthy track record, outside of my 401k and cash purchased real estate. It's very straightforward, quite boring, and there is nothing to be done about it. I'm not allowed to share a story with my golfing partner that made me seem smart. But as you may know, the net worth has increased by several $100 million. Okay, so it's working out. We have been educating people about baby steps for close to 30 years. But what we found out was that now that we've been doing this so long, there's tens of thousands of millionaires that are millionaires because they worked this plan that we taught them 10 years ago, 12 years ago, 18 years ago, and they're coming into our office to do those debt-free screams that we do on the radio. And they're saying, oh, by the way, when I paid off my house the other day, it's worth $450,000. I've got a little over $1 million in my 401k. I'm a millionaire in baby stages, thus my net worth is $1.5 million, and there is where it originates. Baby steps 1 through 3 generally consist of getting out of debt and creating an emergency fund, and baby steps 4 consist of setting aside 15% of your income for retirement. Currently, $60,000 is the average household income. If you invest 15% of $60,000 from the time you turn 30 until the time you turn 65, you may have $5 to $10 million in mutual funds. That's how incredibly simple this is. Even if I'm 10 into 5 into wrong, which I'm not, you'd still be a millionaire. That is not a billionaire, though. 7 Lamborghinis are not going to fit in a private jet. 1 billion is 1 billion. Elon, or, you know, some of the other men we mentioned when discussing the Warren Buffetts of the world, those men differ greatly from one another. And a millionaire who lives in a middle-class home has 2 automobiles and usually drives a good Ford pickup. It concerns ratios. I would take a swing with a sum, and my mental image of it is that if I put that sum of money in the center of my kitchen table and set it on fire, it would imply the risk failed, and we would lose everything. Does it impact my life then? It's a significant setback, right? You can take a shot with that sum of money if the response is no. Does it for Toda's video. Please like the video, subscribe the channel, and share it with others. Also press the bell icon for future updates.